I think it's less about showing up at work just to be seen and more about showing up to create a personal connection. And that can be done in any way, like you said, through the video, through in present, sending a text message, whatever, but just really focus more on creating personal connections versus creating those collisions.
Hey, good morning, Lynette. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Everybody can tell by our uniforms that we got this. We're doing a few in a row here, but you know what? We're on a roll. So
yeah, I think our sessions over the past couple of recordings we're building. So we're going to continue to build on the conversation that we had from last week. So or not last week, just
last hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Last week for our list. You raised the question. We kind of debrief after each one that we do about this notion of collisions and the assumption that some people make that you have to come back into the office for collisions, right? And that people are trying to think about the importance and I guess it's I think we should just have a conversation about it, because I don't think it's really straightforward one way or another, and partly depends on the organization and the situation and the kind of work you're doing and that kind of stuff. But I just want to stand back and just say, do not, and I just want to see what you think about this assumption. Do not assume just because you're working a lot virtual that you can't have collisions.
I agree.
And I think the other assumption, just because that you are local and you you commute to work, doesn't mean that you have collisions either, right? And I just want to see what your reaction is to those assumptions.
Yeah, I think that, like, for me, I have clients kind of all over right now. And so how can I possibly be in the physical presence of all of those clients? And it's virtually impossible. So I use my sort of remote situation. I make sure that I'm sort of very present and very aware of what do I need to do to try to ensure that I sort of have that physical, or the outcomes of what potentially people think having a physical presence really means. So when we talk about collisions, the whole concept of, just kind of back up a little bit, the whole concept of collisions really sort of came from sort of that Google kind of environment where, create spaces where people from various departments and various areas of the organization can come together, get to know each other, and hopefully they're ideating and sort of thinking through and collaborating and ideating on some really great projects and ideas. The idea, I think, that a lot of organizations have done now is, okay, well, we need to create those same spaces so that we can have those same collisions. But with the remote workforce and a global workforce, how do you create those? So for me, I've sort of put some values into my sort of repertoire of, okay, well, when I'm communicating with my clients, I always ask for the video. I don't care. People, I always get the excuse, well, I'm working from home today. I'm still in my jammies. Well, to me, it doesn't really matter. But I do really try to ensure that we have a video so that I can see the face and they can see my face. And that sort of gives them that sort of thought that there's that physical presence. The second piece is, I always try to find ways to reach out to people and to stay connected with them. So I'm not sort of out of sight, out of mind. But that's really sort of at the really basics of it. The whole point of collisions is trying to get people to, to force people together so that they will start to ideate together. So how do you do that? How do you do that when you've got a remote workforce and a global workforce? And maybe that's something that you can help with the answer.
Yeah, I'm really interested, as I was just listening as closely as I can to what you're saying, is that I think we're mixing up a bunch of stuff. I've used the word collision.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times what I think people are want is to feel the energy. Like, if you walk into, why do people work at Starbucks? You kind of ask yourself, really, why do you go? Why do people go there and work there? Like, they can work at home in a much more quieter environment a lot of times, or they can work somewhere. But sometimes we just seek to go out and be around others so we can feel the noise, smell the espresso, And even though we kind of are working, I think we're asking for some sort of collision, even though we oftentimes, you don't talk to anybody. You open up your laptop or your iPad and you work and you go, but you feel like you've been around people. And I think sometimes people are asking for that because literally, when you think about, I've been in organizations where the collision is someone says hello, maybe as they're zooming by your office or your cube. A lot of times they don't even give you any kind of even a look at all, because the only way you get a collision a lot of times is you have to organize and find a way to be on someone's schedule in some sort of way. Not most people's agendas are jam-packed that they don't go and take an hour out to go and have a conversation with someone in the middle of the day. I mean, occasionally you may, but honestly, I don't think it honestly works that way. So I think we just need to step back and ask ourselves, what are we asking for here? Like the most I've seen some of the most crowded places being the least amount of collision. You know, people like almost act like as if they don't exist. They put their headphones on, they're plugged in. There's no collision going on there. What there is really is the pain in the ass of a 2-hour commute, an hour there and an hour back. So some boss can watch you sit at your desk. Right?
True.
But I feel better that hopefully there is some collision, maybe on the way to the washroom or back there. Or I got to remember to call you, or yeah, good to see you again. But maybe we need to think about how we kind of find all those things, the good mornings, the I need to see you again. Let's meet for somewhere to go and feel energy. Maybe that's what we're asking for, because one thing is for sure is that how to leverage our time with other human beings is what we're seeking, how to make and optimize it. And the other thing we know for sure is things like 5G and everything else that's coming along makes it easier to go work from all these other different places, right? So I just think it's such an important conversation that we just step back a little bit and say, what are we really trying to get done here? I don't know. Maybe we're confusing and maybe we're just, I don't know if we're adding any value to our listeners at all. I don't know.
I think I'm a little bit lost in our message too, but I don't know. For me, it's sort of, I think we're bringing it back to how organizations are creating these open office concepts. I think that sometimes people might resist that because they're trying to get their work done. So I think, you know, with everything, being intentional about what we're trying to do, to your point, why do you want people to work in an open workspace? Why do you want people to show up at work? Why would I, as somebody who works largely from home, want to show up at work? It's not just to, you know, have my physical presence there so I can sit down at a desk there and do exactly what I would be doing at home. It would be more to create those connections and those relationships so that, you know, you can work on different projects and advance different projects and through those relationships and those connections that I've made. That's really what it comes down to for me.
You know, if I were starting an organization right from the beginning, no infrastructure, zero, never a campus, never a facility. You know, I know it kind of feels really kind of cool for the ego to have a building with your name on it and everything else, but really, in the world we're moving into, why?
Yeah.
However, I would like to have a culture that had massive personal connection and care,
Yeah.
including face to face, including, you know, from time to time. But I mean, you could say every quarter we're going to bring the entire organization together in the convention center, or you could have virtual meets every Friday. You could have meetups at places around the thing where people had beer on Friday afternoons at 3:00. I mean, what if you made the whole community your office?
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it that way, like think about that as opposed to 4 walls and you gotta, and you know, Lynette, you're a director, so you're gonna get a cube that's got this and it's got a little bench in it. And there's all this bullshit that still goes on about, you know, we go, oh, that person just got promoted, we gotta move that person, or that person can't sit here because, you know, they're gonna make those people mad because she's really not really an executive assistant. She's only an administrative assistant, and therefore her cube cannot have a little bench in it because those are for a little higher level of an. This is all waste and nonsense. Anyway, I'm getting on a soapbox now.
Well, I was just going to say, so your point is that even though we do try to move to this open concept environment at work, we still bring a little bit of that old school sort of structure thinking to it. So so instead of everybody kind of sitting at different desks and stuff like that, or different offices, we bring it's all open concept. There's different spaces for collaboration and things like that. But yet we still bring in that slight little layer of old school where the director has the corner office still, or an office. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So.
And I think it's rooted in old thinking, because don't get me wrong, like I'm an architect wannabe. I really am. I love beautiful spaces. You know, whether it's my home or or a place to be, like that's really important, and a place to be with others in a beautiful place, or a place that inspires you. But I don't know if, like, what if we expanded the walls, like just blew them out to be the community?
Yeah.
And just a different way of thinking, because I can have a great meeting with you, and you're in Toronto and I'm in Edmonton. But we could also have a great meeting in Lake Louise, sitting around overlooking Lake Louise, and we got 5 people there. We're solving a world problem. That could be a phenomenal kind of thing. Or sometimes it's just a walk along a path. All those are our places in some ways, our offices, because Lynette, our office is this, really. And it's going to get more and more of that. So yeah, we have to make room for each other and find kind of stuff. And because what I find out, like literally about an office right now, like I'm sharing an office with a guy because I don't need an office. So one of my VPs is so he brought in 5 cardboard boxes of shit from his office.
He moved that out?
He moved it into my office because he doesn't have anywhere to go, because we're sharing an office now, right? Because I just said, like the CEO, the president of this place I'm at, she's going, you know what? I got to open up my office. We're not building any more offices. I'm going, I completely agree with you. So anyway, but my point is, I did the same thing. Essentially, what these spaces become offices sometimes is just a collection of all of our tchotchkes. And I'm going off in a different direction right now, but yeah. I guess what I'm arguing around, back to collision. Don't just assume that an open office space by itself is the answer.
That's right.
It's and an intentionality.
Yeah, and that's from a leadership perspective, or from a facilities perspective, but even from your own perspective, like your own individual perspective as a team member or an employee of an organization, I don't think that you always need to be in the present to collaborate effectively and to find people to do great things with. I think build the personal connections. You've got them now, these people almost like a friend. And when you've got something that you need done, you can reach out to that person, like you said, to the community, and get them to collaborate with you. I don't think you need to have an office space necessarily to facilitate that.
No, and you know what? Like sometimes I've seen people who are physically present walk by each other and never say good morning.
Oh, I know. I see that all the time too.
I'd rather take a quick FaceTime from someone, or even a text that said, I was just thinking about you this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is better? You walking by and not even seeing me, but we're there in the same building? Or you taking a moment to say, hey, I see you. I know you have been thinking about you.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that I think it's just worth, like, we're not trying to resolve anything. We're not going to give everybody the 3 action things here on this one. This is just.
I don't know. I think there are some actions here to be explored. And I think the actions are, I think it's less about showing up at work just to be seen, and more about showing up to create a personal connection. And that can be done in any way, like you said, through the video, through in present, sending a text message, whatever, but just really focus more on creating personal connections versus creating those collisions. I think for me, that's kind of a key takeaway for me.
That's a great takeaway, and thanks for bringing it home and centering it. I appreciate that. Hey, that was a fun conversation. Thanks, and all right, talk to you next time.
Okay, thanks, Lorne. Bye.
Bye.